Yeah, thanks everyone for joining Jesse's webinar series. Today we're going to be reviewing your wholesale fulfillment flows and what you expect in the system for our B2B sales channel. I'm James Gibson. It's nice to meet everyone who I haven't met before. I'm one of the account managers here at JASCI. Also have Joe Riss on the line. Joe, would you like to make an introduction?
Yeah, hey everybody, thanks for joining. My name is Joe Rist. I'm the Director of Solution Sales here at JASCI, and today's webinar will be on scaling wholesale fulfillment, all of our wholesale processes from order download and route management all the way through loading and shipping. We're going to be talking about the whole process flow. We'll talk about some of the supervisor tools involved in this operation. So we're very excited for today's webinar, and thanks for joining us again if you've seen the previous ones.
So without further ado, Joe, I know I've got the slides and I'm sharing, so just feel free to let me know when you want to go.
Yeah, we'll go through some slides and then I've got some videos that I want to share at the end that show kind of some live examples of what we're discussing.
Perfect.
So go ahead and let's go to the next slide. All right, so here we have our B2B order flow, and basically it's just a description of what the process looks like as orders come into JASCI. This again, we've done this for e-commerce for the e-commerce side. So if you're in e-commerce or if you're omni-channel, those processes we covered last week. And then we've also had another session on order management as orders come into JASCI. We talk about the different work types that you could get from them, prioritization, allocation, all of that. We're going to go over that real quickly here. So, as orders get downloaded into JASCI or sent to JASCI, they're typically going to include information such as the sales order number, the route, which means that if you're sending multiple sales orders out to a particular destination, or maybe another destination that's going to be on the same truck as other orders, you'd be able to feed us that route information. You can also feed us route stops, not just the route, but if you want to give us particular route stops so that you could do the reverse load sequence, that's something that JASCI can take as well. Obviously, you're going to have your products and their quantities of what's on the order. And then that order will also need to have a customer ID and the shipping address, which we'll store within JASCI as well. So you send over the orders, whether it's through integration or maybe you're creating the order or maybe you're uploading it with a file. Typically, it's going to be communicated with APIs if you've set up integrations. And then once JASCI receives the order, we go through the order processing. So at order download, we go through a few different activities. We're going to allocate the inventory. We're going to cartonize the picks. We're going to assign the work types. In this case, it's going to be either a case pick or a pallet pick. And then we also prioritize those picks on different factors that you've got set up in your prioritization settings. And what that's going to do is it's going to apply a numeric point value to that picking work. So that way, when we release those picking works to be picked, the system knows which ones to dish out to the users first. So after the order processing, when you get your work type and we've got the inventory allocated and we've got the prioritization, we then go into order assignment. Now, this is a step that's done by the user. You use our viewpoint load screen to select which door you ultimately want those orders to go to. We're going to show the viewpoint load on the next slide once we get there. And that is basically a screen where you can assign orders to a picking door, you can release the picks to the pickers, and you can also assign a truck to the door. There's additional functions that come a little bit later in the process at viewpoint load, so you're going to use it multiple times. But to release the picks and to assign the orders to particular doors, you're going to use our viewpoint load screen. So after the order assignment, depending on the picking type, you'll either have pallet picking or case picking. Case picking is basically going to bring you through picking multiple items to a pallet, so a multi-SKU pallet. And Jassy is going to make sure that we don't exceed a typical pallet dimensions. So we'll know what products you're picking to the pallets and what the typical height and dimensions of that pallet should be. And we'll actually break it into multiple picking works so that you don't have to have that guessing work done by your staff. Makes it really easy to just kind of follow the bouncing ball with Jassy's workflows. The pallet picking is going to be when we have an order that has a quantity that satisfies a full pallet. And instead of going and scanning the product and confirming the quantity, you can simply just scan the license plate number on that pallet as you pick it. which we would recommend storing those full pallets by LPN to make that pallet picking process easier. Once you've picked those items, you're going to then drop them off at a door. Some of our customers also like to use a P&D location, which is kind of an intermediate spot between the shipping door and the picking process. It's kind of like a holding point that in case you're not really ready to clog up the door and load the truck and you want to keep it somewhere else in the meantime. So you have your drop off and then you have your truck loading. So the truck loading is where we're going to be scanning the pallets, whether it's the ASN label that prints out at the end, or maybe it's the initial LPN label that you use to pick everything to, or the LPN label that was already on that full pallet. So you're going to do your loading, as we mentioned before, if you have route stops, we'll be able to guide the reverse stop sequence. That way, you're loading it into a way more appropriate way to drop off the picks to the different destinations. And then once you've loaded your truck, you're then going to go back to viewpoint load, where you can manage to confirm that that truck has been closed. And then you can also generate and print the bill of lading from there. Now, I gave you a quick visual on this slide just to kind of help describe, the whole process. You've got your pallet pick zone and your case pick zones. Users are going to sign into a particular flow and into a particular work zone, and that's going to guide them to go get the picks in there by highest priority. After that, they're going to bring the case picks directly to the door. However, you'll see that I have a trouble station marked there on the image, and we'll talk about that in a few slides as well. A trouble station is going to be if a picker gets to a location and they're not able to pick the intended items, they're going to hit the cut button. And if we can't reallocate another inventory record to satisfy that, we'll guide them to drop off that pallet at the trouble station where someone who maintains the trouble station, maybe someone in inventory control or a supervisor, will determine what they want to do with those partially picked pallets or pallets that are missing certain items that couldn't be picked. And then I also kind of notate the shipping office in that image because that's typically where someone who's using viewpoint load will be. Viewpoint load is a full screen option. So whether you're initially assigning the orders to the doors, we've seen all sorts of roles take on that responsibility, whether it's a supervisor, a shipping manager, even in some instances, customer service reps who are kind of aligning the orders that are going out to the customers. And then you'll also have people using it for the closeout process and also checking on the steps and the visibility of the picks and shipments. So you'll have multiple uses for viewpoint load, and that's the next screen that we're going to talk about is this viewpoint load. So as I mentioned just a moment ago, we're going to use this screen as a visibility point for the door and truck status. So you'll know what picks and what orders are assigned to particular doors, and you can check on the status of them if they've been picked, if they've been staged, if they're still open, if they're currently working or assigned. And we'll even show you down to the line level of what's been picked and what hasn't been picked yet. So that way, if you've got a truck driver, slamming on the door and saying, "Hey, we got to, get out of there," you can actually look at the pick and see, okay, we only have 2 lines left on this last pallet that's getting loaded to this truck. You can also assign orders and routes to the door from here. That's kind of its main purpose is you can see that in the image. It's grayed out right now because in that screenshot, I didn't select a particular door, but we have a button down at the bottom there that says assign route. So as orders get downloaded into JASCI, you'll come into this screen, the viewpoint load, and you'll go to assign route. And that's how you can choose to assign individual orders or all of the orders that you have linked to a route to be opened up for picking and also to be guided to dropped off to a particular door. So you can see in this image, I've got like 25 doors or so. And this is giving green, yellow, and red is all going to be a reference to the percentage done that we are with the work that's assigned to that door versus what's been actually staged at that door. You can also show it as a percentage. If you don't want it as just the colored blocks, you could set it up as a certain percentage. And these colors you can actually align to a particular percentage. So if you want red to mean that it's going to be, 90% completed or 100% completed, you can do that. We'll also blink those squares on the screen if they are aging. So you can set a certain amount of time. Maybe it's a few hours, maybe it's a day after you've assigned orders to a route. you can have it start blinking on this viewpoint load screen, and that's going to let you know that it's aging past the certain amount of hours that you set. So it's a good visual cue. So the assigning the orders and the routes to the doors is actually going to release the picks. As we download those orders into JASCI that are going to be picked in this methodology and loaded to a truck, we download them into a hold status. And then once you actually assign the order or the route that has that order to a door, that status of those picks will go from hold to open, which means that it's now eligible to be picked by a user that signs into a picking workflow and gets work assigned to them. At that point, it's looking at all of the open picks and open orders and finding the highest priority one and distributing it to the user. Also, on the after all of the picking's done, this is how you assign a truck to the door. You could see in the image I have some of those doors where a truck actually is assigned, which means typically that that truck has physically arrived. And it's also kind of our threshold for if you're able to load a truck or not. So first you want to assign a truck before you go through the load truck mobile flows. And then this is also where we close the truck after the loading has taken place. Once you're ready to close out that truck and free up the door for more orders or more trucks, then you hit the close truck button, and that's going to automatically generate our BOL, which we have an example of not only our BOL in this presentation, but also on the same page, we talk a little bit more about our shipping labels because when you drop off these picks to the door, we're going to be printing out a shipping label. JASCI can do these shipping labels to match the compliance label formats for all the most common stores that you would distribute to. And then we also can do case labels in case you have a case label requirement where every case on the pallet needs to have its own label. We have the ability to issue all of those case labels, whether it's before picking, during picking, or at the end after picking, and you just want to apply all the labels to the cases. So James, let's go ahead and jump into the next screen where we're going to talk about the actual picking processes. So we have two different picking processes when it comes to this methodology. We have the case picking and then we have the full pallet picking. So we have the steps listed here. I won't read them all one by one just to keep things a little bit faster here. But in a nutshell, in case picking, you're going to sign into the work zone that you're picking from. You're going to declare a license plate number that you're picking to, and JASCI is going to give you the highest priority case pick work that's out there, in which you can use Gravity if you've seen our previous webinars on order management and Gravity waveless work management. Gravity allows you to reprioritize picks and groups of picks on the fly without having to go track down your employees and tell them which orders and which customers they're picking for. So you're going to enter the zone, you're going to declare your license plate number, and JASCI will give you that highest priority pick to go complete. And you'll stop by the first location as it guides you to. You're going to scan the products, you're going to confirm the quantity that you're entering, or hit the cut button if you're not able to pick that full amount. And then it's going to keep bringing you to the next location. And what we do is we're going to guide you on the optimal pick path so that you're not traveling all back and forth throughout the warehouse picking things randomly. We're going to have that location sequence that we can guide the pickers through to pick their cases to the pallet. Now, JASCI is going to figure out what the best possible amount of picks and items to go on a full pallet would be, and to not exceed that pallet dimensions. However, if the user isn't comfortable with picking everything that JASCI told us to go put on one pallet, they do have an option to hit pallet full, and that can finish their picking work. They can drop off that pallet that they've determined full, and then it'll give them the rest of the picks on a new pallet that they can go drop off to that door. When they do drop off to the door, this can either be done with a button where you say drop off complete, or you can have it to where you actually scan a barcode that represents that door ID, which I recommend because that ensures that your employees are dropping it off at the correct door by forcing them to scan a particular barcode that matches that. And like we mentioned, the shipping labels will print out at that drop off. And that's why we also recommend having a mobile printer for your pickers, or at least having a printer near that area where you're going to be dropping the pallets off to. Now, on the pallet picking, full pallet picking side, it's much simpler process. You're going to sign into to the pallet picking flow. You're going to enter your zone like always. But then it's going to find you the highest priority full pallet pick to go pick. And instead of assigning an LPN that you're picking to, it's just going to bring you to go pick that pallet, which you'll typically scan the LPN that's on that pallet to say that you're grabbing that pallet, and then it'll guide you to the door that you need to drop it to. So a few less steps because you're just picking one pallet at a time. We do have customers that have asked for a quantity confirmation just because initially they didn't trust the integrity of their inventory when they first uploaded it to the system. So we have had opportunities where we still force a quantity confirmation even though they're picking that full pallet. So you do have some options there. So those are your two main picking methods. Either way, they're going to be dropped off to either a door or, as I mentioned before, a P&D location. So James, we can go on to the next slide. So we also have some supervisor tools. So we have Gravity Waveless Work Management. We're very proud and happy about that tool. This is a JASCI specific feature because we have a patent on it. And Gravity Waveless Work Management allows you to basically create profiles of work for yourself to view, whether it's by the door it's getting loaded to or the route it's going on, the customer it's going to, however you want to view your orders and your picks that are out there. Gravity is going to relay back to you real-time information that shows you how many works, lines, and quantity, and how much estimated labor is across that profile. And you also have the opportunity to reprioritize that entire profile of work to be a higher or lower priority for that system-directed picking, or you can choose to reprioritize an individual pick, which is often used if you've got, time constraints on a certain truck and maybe you had a huge order in front of another one where you just had to get that final pallet picked. That's where you can come into Gravity and reprioritize work. Uh, all work within JASCI is going to have a numeric priority point value that's determined at order download. It can also be influenced by how long it's been aging, and Gravity gives you the opportunity to change that priority point value in real time. We also have trouble. So we have two different types of trouble. One would be view trouble orders. This is typically if you've downloaded an order and as you downloaded it, you didn't have enough inventory to allocate for it, or maybe there was an order hold or a customer hold or something that's preventing you from wanting to pick and ship this order. It'll go into view trouble orders. If it is an inventory issue, what JASCI will do is automatically release that pick or that order from trouble as we get inventory that satisfies it put away into location, whether that's a replenishment or a put away. So view trouble orders is kind of a way to view and deal with all of your orders that had an issue at download or before it could even be released to the floor. And then on the flip side of that, you have the trouble station. So the trouble station is what you'll use if there was an issue during the picking process. If JASCI thought there was inventory somewhere and the user gets there and physically they don't have enough or it's the wrong SKU or whatever may happen, they can hit the cut button. And if there's not enough inventory left to allocate on the fly during the picking flow, what we'll do is we'll guide that user to drop the pallet off at the trouble station after they've picked everything else for it. And then at the trouble station, you can determine how you want to resolve that issue, whether you want to back order a certain quantity or a certain line on the pick, or maybe you want to re-release the pick to be completed by somebody else once we have inventory put away. Or maybe you want to choose that you're going to manually go grab the item that was missing from somewhere that maybe wasn't allocatable. You have options in the trouble station for how you want to resolve those picking exceptions. So those are some of our supervisor tools that are involved. I call them supervisor tools, but maybe you might have inventory control team, handling your trouble orders and trouble station. But let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. So this one I want to talk about labels and documents. So we mentioned before we're going to be printing out the shipping labels. It just could have an ASN and the order number on them. We can also do a pick list or pack list. And then also a bill of lading will generate. Now, when it comes to the labels, we do have a full library of compliance labels. There's over 100 different compliance labels that are already in there. You could see a few examples on the screen here, like Walmart, Home Depot, Target, Costco, Nordstrom, etc. These are going to be some of your more common ones. We definitely have those covered. And what we'll do is we'll take all the data for the order and automatically populate it to these compliance labels. and then it's just going to automatically print from there. Now, the bill of lading we also have in an industry standard format where we're going to include information about where it's going, the pro number, the bill of lading number. We're going to include the information for like the truck driver in case there's any sign-offs or anything. And then we're also going to have the supplement, which will include the itemized information of what's going out the door, including the quantity, the SKU, the order number it's on, the if there's any lot or HMX codes, anything like that that need to be communicated on those documents for the truck. So these are things that we automatically generate and give you the ability to print. And James, do we have any more slides on this or
No, I think that's the last slide before we hop into the system.
okay, yeah. So what I'm going to do now is show you some examples of our picking flows. And then I also have a real world example, a video of these picking flows also being used. So I'm going to share my screen, and this time I'm going to try to make sure that it shares the audio. Um, Set it here. Um, James, do you know why it's not letting me um, click share sound? It's great
Not
at.
sure.
Okay, I think I'll just have to talk through this then. That's strange. Um, okay, we'll hit share. I'll have to look into that later. I prepared for this. I was like, oh, I could just click a button that says share sound, but it doesn't let me click it. So anyway, I'm sharing my screen now. You can see that, correct?
Yep.
Okay, great. So have quickly we'll start with the like an actual video of the picking process. So um, here you can see this is the start of a pallet pick. So this user has basically just entered the pallet pick flow. They're using a Zebra tablet that's mounted to a forklift. And you can't see it right now, but they also have a mobile printer attached to the forklift as well, which keeps this process very, very simple. So on the tablet, they're going to enter the workbench, which is basically linking them to the printer that's on that truck. And then they're going to enter the zone that they're in. So she's are you able to hear that, James, or is it not?
No, we can't hear that.
Okay. All right. So what it's doing is I might as well just keep it quiet for myself. So she entered the zone that she's picking from, and there it's giving her a preview of the order that she's picking and the pallet pick that she's doing. So we also like to give this screen in case you want the opportunity to hit unassign. In the event that maybe you know that there's a different order that needs to be reprioritized to the front of the line as you sign into a picking flow, you can just do a quick double check to make sure that this one makes sense to pick if you would like this. Otherwise, we send you right to go ahead and hit start. So she's going to hit the start button, and that's going to guide her to her first location. It's a little bit of a glare there, but at the top of the screen, it's telling her the location to travel to. So she's going to shoo me out of the way and drive to go do her pallet pick. All right, now for the actual process, I have another video here where we're going to show what that picking process kind of looks like. Um, so once she gets to the location, she's going to scan the license plate number or the location ID, and then she's going to scan the LPN that's on the pallet, which she's scanning right there. And as she scans it, it's going to confirm that that was the right inventory to pick. Now, this is also one of those customers that wanted to have the quantity verification, even though they're picking by LPN. JASCI can include a quantity verification just to make sure that you are picking that full quantity. And if you're not, if it's, let's say, for whatever reason, it was two-thirds of a pallet sitting there, then we would know that we either need to drop this off to trouble because you didn't get the full quantity, or we try to reallocate more on the fly from another location. However, I would typically send this to trouble since it was supposed to be a full pallet. You kind of want somebody investigating why that's no longer a full pallet. Um, so she's going to confirm that it is the full quantity, and then that's going to guide her to go drop this off to the door. So now, well, she's got to pick it first, right? So she's going to pick the pallet, and then she's going to bring it to the door and declare the drop off. Now, this customer, they tended to do a little bit of wrapping in the aisle, and sometimes they would um, declare that they dropped it off a little bit too early. So we actually put in that scan verification that they are actually at the door, and so that they're not hitting the drop off button in the aisle, which is something I do recommend. So we just wanted to show you that as a quick example of how these picking flows are used in JASCI. And I have another example here where um, we have our case picking flow. So if you pay attention to the right hand side here on the mobile device, you'll see as I sign into a particular work zone, it's going to ask to assign a license plate number. So this is asking for basically a blank or open or ready license plate number. And you can have multiple ways that you do that, whether it's like a cone that has the barcode on it that you just kind of rest on top of the pallet, or maybe you have an actual label that you want to affix to the side of the pallet, maybe at the bottom, and then you're basically picking everything to this pallet. It's important to keep in mind that this license plate number, this will be scannable during the load process. So in the event that you did have a label that you stuck onto the pallet, if it's at the bottom or a certain side, and then at the end, when you have your shipping label that you put on the pallet, it'll take either one of those labels, whether it's the LPN or the ASN on the shipping label, and you'll be able to load by that number. If you see here on the works detail, you can see that LPNs and ASNs are both going to be tied to the same work control number. So that's why it'll take either scan. Whatever label is easier for the loader to access, they'll be able to end up loading by that. Now you can see here as I scan that LPN, it's bringing me on my pick path. We also have buttons down below, like inventory, in case we wanted to look up particular locations that have that SKU. Probably not needed for most pickers to investigate inventory across the warehouse. But in the event that you wanted to just see if there are more locations with that SKU, you have that button. We also have the suspend, which is kind of like a pause button, to make sure that we're not getting like bad labor scores. And maybe there's whatever reason you have to put your work on hold immediately. Maybe it's a fire alarm went off or something like that. And then we also have the skip button. So skip is very interesting. Skip, let's say you get to an aisle and there's somebody in it and you don't want to wait for them to finish what they were doing in that aisle. You can hit skip and then that'll bring you back to that location later in the picking flow at the end of it. So this can be either, someone's taking up the space and you don't want to wait for them to finish what they were doing, or maybe you identified an opportunity where the stacking works out better. Instead of going to pick a particular item that might get crushed, something like that, maybe you want to go to a different location and then come back at the end and put them on the top of the pallet. What we recommend in JASCI is to set up your pick path to match that crushability and weight and size, so that you're putting your heavier items on the bottom as you go through and not have to do too much backtracking through the warehouse. Sometimes it's inevitable where you just don't want to store, your potato chips or whatever it is all the way on the end, and you have them kind of near some of the other things that tend to be heavier. But we would recommend from just an efficiency and optimization standpoint that you're slotting your warehouse to match the most ideal pick paths. So you'll see on the screen, just finished. Sorry, I can't have the audio. Otherwise, I would just let this let this video play. But this is we're going to go ahead and scan the location. All right, so after we scan the location, it's then going to ask us to scan a particular barcode. So this is going to, and also you can see I have an image displaying there if you want to show product images and any of the workflows and also some of our inventory lookups. You're able to load product images with the products, just like you would their attributes and behaviors. You can also include a product image. So we're going to scan that product image, or sorry, that product ID, and then it's going to tell us how many that we're picking. So in this case, we can pick a partial amount and cut the remainder. We can pick the full amount, or we can hit the cut button and pick none of them. Now that new LPN button I was talking about earlier that allows you to basically finish that pallet right where you are, and then creates a new picking work to a new pallet to pick the remainder items. That's what that new LPN is going to do. The cut button, as mentioned before, if we cut any amount, whether it's a partial amount or the full amount, it's going to see if we can pick more of it elsewhere in the warehouse that matches the right lot or expiration rules, if it's a food or lot or expiry controlled product. And it'll also um, create a location check. So as you get to a location and you weren't able to perform what JASCI expected you to perform, we're going to create something called a location check. And that location check, if you've seen our webinars on the inventory control, is a very, very useful feature that'll basically make sure we're not sending more pickers to that location because we know that there's an issue there. And it's also a system-directed work so that you in the inventory control team can know, okay, we had an issue here. You could see what the issue was created from, what work or what job, what team member. And then you could choose if you want to cycle count it or mark everything's okay. You have options of what you can do in that location check. But the whole point of it is that we don't send more pickers back to a location that we know we had an issue in. So as we're going to go ahead and pick the items that we have there, we're going to hit that number sign. Anytime that you have to enter a quantity in JASCI, we'll have that number pad able to pop up and flex to the size of the screen. And that's going to allow you to enter the quantity and have a much easier time doing that than the small pop-up keyboards that come just naturally with the device or the buttons on the devices, which can be extremely small. So it's going to bring us through to our next location so we can pick this item. Um, and I'll fast forward through this so we can go ahead and pick. This is actually a lot and expiry controlled product. So we're just confirming the lot and expiry through those steps. And then we're going to go ahead and enter the quantity that we're picking. Um, in this video, I was doing a lot of explaining that I've already done here in our slides, which is why it's taking a little bit longer. But after you go ahead and enter it, it's then going to guide you to your drop off. Now, in this workflow that I did in this video, I'm utilizing a P&D location, which, as I mentioned before, that P&D location can be kind of an intermediate spot that you drop your pick to. In the event that you're not trying to clog up your stage doors, you've assigned it to ultimately go to a particular stage door, but maybe you want to hold it at this P&D location where you then do a P&D to stage workflow where you move it from that P&D location to its actual door that you're supposed to be staging it at. So that would just be the final step after you scan your P&D location. You're then going to move it from the P&D to the door. If you're not using P&D, this would just go ahead and drop it right at the door. But then your work will go from an assigned state to a stage status, which you can also view from the viewpoint load. Now, to show you the final part of this, we're going to go into our load truck sequence here. So I'm going to show you moving it from P&D to a stage location. You can see here that the work is staged. And we can also see the history, which was the last activity and task and team member. So now I'm going to go into our P&D to stage location workflow. So this again is an extra workflow if you want it to where you can move it from that intermediate spot to the stage location. And this one's very straightforward. You're going to scan the LPN where it sits because remember you'll have that LPN label on the pallet that you picked or the pallet that you picked to. And you're simply going to scan that location and it's going to tell you the door that you need to go bring this pallet to. So it's just fully system directed. You just walk up to a LPN that's at one of its P&Ds and you're able to move it to the door. So we're going to scan that door and then it's going to tell us that we've completed it. So then it can just bring us back to scan more LPNs that we'd like to transfer over. Now at this point, we can go to our viewpoint load and we can click on the door that we just staged this to. We can also choose to either view the door details there or we can assign a truck since there's no truck assigned yet. So viewpoint load we initially used to assign the route, but now we're actually coming in here to also assign the truck to that door. We have multiple trailer types that you can select if you want to track by trailer type. We're also building in dimensions to the trailer types so that you can start to track utilization as well, if that's an interest. So we're going to have a trailer ID confirmed here. This is going to be at the point of assign, and then we can also confirm the trailer ID at the point of truck closing in case you don't have the ID yet. You could put in a dummy number there and then ultimately put the proper trailer ID if you want to track trailer IDs. But now you could see at that door that we now have a truck assigned, and it's not blinking, which means it's not aging past a certain amount of hours. As you can see, everything else that I have at my doors is pretty much aging past that amount. And you can set all these things in the preferences, what percentage it turns to a certain color, how long it takes to start flashing. And you can do that for both the doors or the stages and also the trucks that are associated. So now on the mobile device, we're going to go into our load truck flow. And this is going to ask us to enter the door that we're loading from. And that's going to make sure that we're only loading the pallets from the door that we're intending to. In the event that somebody put a pallet physically in the wrong door, even though systematically it's at a different door, this is going to prevent you from accidentally loading that pallet to that truck. It's going to be doing a verification here. So you can see it says scan ASN and LPN. That is a reference to what I mentioned earlier. Either one of those labels, the LPN label or the ASN label, they're both tied to the same picking work. So it'll know. And as we're showing here in the door details on viewpoint load, this is a kind of a status of all of the picks that are assigned to be dropped at that door. You'll be able to see here we have this one that's staged, right? So we can take either this LPN or the ASN. Either one of those is going to scan, and both are represented by barcode labels that are physically on the pallet. So in this flow on the right-hand side, I'm going to scan one of those values. So we'll paste it in there, and then it's going to tell us that our LPN has been loaded. And we can also see if we refresh our screen on viewpoint load, we also see that as a status. So we can see that the most recent palette on there with the activity date has been loaded instead of staged. So you have different statuses in JASCI that'll give you clues on where the work is along its going from hold to open to assigned to staged to loaded and then completed once you've closed the truck. So that is our load truck process. Now, if we come back here to our viewpoint load, we can we can hit close truck. We also have the option to view any of the picks that are out there. Now, when it comes to close truck, you can choose to make sure that the entire door has been loaded first, or you can do a setting to where you don't require that, and it's just whatever is loaded is what you're closing out, and whatever hasn't been loaded is still going to remain at that door, which is what I do for my demonstrations. That way, I'm not having to constantly add new orders in. Some people like to make sure that they are, in fact, loading every pallet that was intended to, but some people like that flexibility to send multiple orders, multiple routes to a door, and then really only load and close what they want to out of that pool. So again, as I mentioned, we have the closed truck. So this is going to just confirm, I'm sorry, the trailer ID. This is just going to confirm that trailer ID that we want on the BOL as well as in our shipping history. And did it show there? Sorry, I don't know if sorry, I was trying to show an example of the BOL. So this will bring you to your electronic BOL, which again, we showed on the slides earlier that we have a printable format of that, which you can hit here with the print button. You can also, if you need to override the ship to info after the BOL was generated, that's something you can also do. And then you can put any notes about it if you'd like to. It's going to consider all of the products that you loaded, the quantities, the weights, and all of that information will also be relayed to the printable version of the BOL. So I believe that's what oh, here's the printable version. So I believe that's what we wanted to review today. Um, if you have any questions about what we talked about here, whether it's the order download, the work type assignment and prioritization, the viewpoint load use, whether it's assigning the routes and the orders to the doors and or assigning the trucks to the doors or closing the trucks, anything that happens at viewpoint load, or maybe you have questions about the picking processes that we showed, whether it's case picking or picking to a pallet. Maybe you want to know more about P&D locations and the advantages or how easy it is to use within JASCI. If you have any questions about any of those steps that we showed today, don't hesitate to add questions into the chat here or reach out to JASCI, or you can go on our website, jascicloud.com, and you can fill out a form and send us a question. So we really appreciate everybody joining today's webinar, and we hope you have a great weekend as well. Happy Friday.
Thanks, everyone.